going to start this video off with a discussion. Do we provide the same level of emotional education for little boys as we do for little girls? Before you answer this, I'm going to give you some facts. Girls are allowed to cry more. Girls are comforted more when they are upset. Whereas boys are told to suck it up, or big boys don't cry, or something similar. So here's what I want you to answer. What differences does this create when those boys and girls are adolescents or even adults? I'm going to post this question on Blackboard and I look forward to hearing your thoughts on it. So here's a list of things that we can say to children instead of stop crying. Stop crying invalidates their feelings. It tells them that they shouldn't be sad. So what we want to do instead is validate their feelings and let them know that we're there for them. So this is just a list of some examples. It's okay to be sad. I'm here with you. This is really hard for you. That was really scary or sad. I will help you work it out. It doesn't feel fair. So in all of these, you are acknowledging their feelings and you're telling them that you are there with them. Now we're going to talk about empathy. We talked about this briefly and said that even newborn babies appear to have a basic level of empathy. But what is it? Well, the definition of empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. So what influences the development of empathy? Well, age is a big one. The older you get, the more capable you are of empathy. Toddlers really aren't capable of very much because of their egocentrism and the other factors in their brains. But as we get older, we get more capacity for empathy. Also, parental role models. Parents who show empathetic behavior are more likely to have children who show it as well. And societal values. Some cultures value empathy more than others do, and that's going to influence how the child develops it. So empathy appears to develop in 4 stages. The first is from birth to a year. At this point, they still can't really separate themselves from an adult caregiver. So whatever mom feels, they feel. This is called global empathy. At 1 to 3 years, they know they are separate entities from their mother, and they can see when someone else is sad, but they'll try to comfort others the way that they would want to be comforted, such as bringing them a favorite teddy bear. This is called egocentric empathy. In preschool and elementary school, they understand that there are differences between themselves and others, and they'll start to offer what that other person might like instead of what they would like in order to comfort them. And then in late childhood and adolescence, they get a deeper understanding of reasons and the complexity of sadness and troubles. And they can start to feel empathy for groups of people who might be at a disadvantage rather than just feeling empathy for individuals. Like they might see a group of people on the news and be capable of feeling empathy for that entire group. So now let's talk about sharing. Based on what you've learned about toddler cognition, why is sharing so difficult for them? Well, I'm going to give you the answer to this one. This one won't be on Blackboard. Toddlers are beginning to see themselves as separate entities from their mothers. And part of that is a need to establish a sense of ownership as a part of their sense of self. If I am a separate person, then I need things that belong to me and not to anybody else. This age does have the roots of conscience and morality, and they can start to tell right from wrong. But because of their egocentric brains, things are still all about them, so they focus primarily on their own needs versus the needs of others. They don't yet realize how their actions can make someone else feel sad. Remember, they're still really wrapped up in themselves. So how do we encourage and foster empathy and sharing? How can we teach toddlers to share? Well, we need to model that behavior for them. You need to show them what sharing looks like. And then if they do have a conflict, scaffold them by stepping into the conflict and help guide them through it. So instead of just making the decision and saying, no, you get that toy, try to help them figure it out for themselves. Maybe talk to them about taking turns or finding another toy or trading. Scaffold them through that experience. And remember, they are not developmentally ready to share. They just can't do it yet. Their brains aren't ready to handle it. You can also help them by talking about emotions. Say that he's sad because you took his toy from him. Try to help them see the other person's feelings and their other person's point of view. Remember, logic and reason do not work at this age. They haven't developed logic yet. So you can't really lecture them and reason with them. Instead, it's best to redirect or distract them. If they're crying because they couldn't get a toy, give them a different toy. Distract them, move them away. Remember, sharing is a skill. It takes practice, and it probably won't happen until preschool. And even then, preschoolers are really bad at it. Parents and caregivers who react to misbehavior by focusing on the feelings of the one who was wronged foster greater empathy and altruism in their children. So really focus on how they made the other person feel, or how the other person is feeling because of what they did. So here's something else that I just think is funny. The toddler's rules of possession. You'll hear the word mine a lot from toddlers. If I like it, it's mine. If it's in my hand, it's mine. If I can take it from you, it's mine. If I had it a while ago, it's mine. If it's mine, it must never appear to be yours in any way. If I'm doing or building something, all the pieces are mine. If it looks like mine, it's mine. If I saw it first, it's mine. If you are playing with something and you put it down, it automatically becomes mine. If it's broken, it's yours. So now we're going to talk about transition objects. So what are they? A transition object is something that an infant or a toddler or preschooler sees as special and valuable, and it allows the child to transition from the early dependent relationship with mom to a separate identity. It is an object that is chosen by the child. Maybe it's a blanket they've had since they were born, or maybe just a stuffed animal that they saw in a store that they were really drawn to. They need to choose it. You'll often hear it called a security blanket. But it's more than just a blanket. It doesn't even have to be a blanket. It could be a stuffed animal or a pillow or anything really. But it's so much more than just a toy. It's so much more than a blanket. So my son had this little dog from the show Paw Patrol. For a year or so, Rocky went with him everywhere. The car, the store, to bed with him, etc. We left Rocky in a store once and you would have thought the world was ending. Rocky was his best friend in a time before children can really form friendships. Think of transitional objects that way, a child's first friend. They are related to attachment. The bond a child has with his or her chosen object reflects the attachment the child has with a caregiver. You can see how they treat the object and how they love it. Even if they treat it roughly, as children are prone to do, you can still see the love they have for it just by the way they play with it and the way they hold it. By having that object with them, it's like they are carrying an external symbol of mom and the attachment. That's why you'll sometimes hear them called attachment objects. So they're a child's first friend. They're also a symbol of mom and of mom's love. So what are the benefits of having a transition object? Well, having the object nearby gives the child comfort and security. It lessens the stress of separation or of new experiences. Remember the toddler's love of the routine and the fear of something new? The transition object can help them with that. It provides consistency, predictability, comfort, and stability. This object helps the child regulate and express their emotions. Maybe they use the favorite teddy bear to act out a scenario they recently experienced, such as going to the doctor. Maybe the blanket becomes a superhero cape, helping the child feel strong and in control. Maybe the toy just gets held tightly when the child is scared or sad. They use this object to help them work through their emotions. The use of a security object can improve the connectedness between children and between the child and the adult. So it's a good thing. It's a normal thing. Not all children get one, but when they do, don't take it away from them. You'll sometimes see adults, like parents or teachers, try to take away the transition object because they think that for some reason the child shouldn't be dependent on a blanket or a toy. To the child, it's as though you're taking his mother away. In a situation where the child is already on uncertain footing, you're taking away his source of comfort and stability. This can lead to increased anxiety, arguments, or even a meltdown. Some research indicates that children who are deprived of a security object can be more susceptible to pathological disorders. As the child feels more secure with themselves and the world around them, their dependence on the transition object will slowly fade. First, it may stay in the backpack or in their cubby at school. Then maybe it stays in the car. And one day they'll leave it at home. It gradually fades away. You don't have to take it from them. But in most cases, the transitional object forever holds a place in the child's heart. It may still be in their bed at night, even when they're teenagers. It may live on a bookshelf or in the closet. Adults may be going through a box and say, "Hey, my teddy!" Pull it out tenderly and hug it. It instantly takes us back to the security we have as children. They become sacred keepsakes. Mine was a pillow, and it still lives in the drawer next to my bed. So here's a question for you. Who still has theirs, and what is it? I'll post this on Blackboard too, because it's always fun to hear people's answers to this. We will finish up in the next video. We'll start with talking about autism.